This video is presented by the EA Creator Network on an early access build of College Football 25, so things are subject to change. This is Underdog, an underdog quarterback trying to traverse his way through college football and win a coveted national championship. But he doesn't have the advantage of playing for a powerhouse university like Alabama or Clemson. Being from a small Midwestern town, it was difficult for him to get notoriety while playing in high school, so he decided to stay close to home and commit to Northwestern for his freshman year. Finishing last year with an 8-5 record, Deuce believes this team is right on the cusp of greatness, but need a special leader to take them to the promised land. The problem is that it's not just rare, but nearly unheard of for a true freshman to come into a program and start right away. So he knows he's going to have to put in the work and show his coach that he's the man that's meant to be the starter. This means he'll have to put in time to train hard, study hard, and prove to his teammates that he can be their leader. You see, Deuce feels conflicted. He wants the team to have an amazing season, but he also doesn't want to remain third on the depth chart and never get the chance to prove himself. That's why he felt so surprised when before the season even started, coach offered him a chance to fight for the backup quarterback spot. This means that if the starter Mike Wright ever gets injured, Deuce will have the opportunity to come in and replace him. But to achieve this milestone, first he'll have to beat the current backup Ryan Helinski in 2 of 3 quarterback drills. The first is the option attack, where Deuce needs to make the correct decision on whether to hand the ball off to his running back, keep it himself, or pitch it to the other running back. Fortunately, since Deuce is an improviser archetype, he's well-versed and crushes Ryan's score taking home the first round. Next up is the pass skeleton, where Deuce's passing skill and ability to read defense will be put to the test. It's simple. Make the right decision and complete as many passes as possible. He starts off hot, but of course he isn't perfect. It all came down to the last pass, where with only 1 second left, he'd need to complete it in order to beat Ryan's score and take home the competition. And with that, Deuce has proved his abilities to his coach and secured himself the backup quarterback spot. He knew he wouldn't be a day one starter, but already earning his coach's trust after just 1 week as a true freshman has really boosted Deuce's confidence. He's starting to find that dog in him. As a backup, however, Deuce still won't see the field on game days unless something happens to Northwestern's starting quarterback. So what he does off the field, in the classroom, with his teammates, and at practice is still as important as ever. So he continues to put in the hours. Deuce is the first one in and the last one out, and his teammates even start to take notice. The support from Mike means everything, and Deuce is thrilled when the Wildcats open up their season with a win against Miami, Ohio. He may not have seen the field, but the better the Wildcats do, the better it is for Deuce in the coming years. But then Deuce is quickly reminded that he's just a lowly freshman and will have to continue putting in time and energy proving himself to his teammates, even if it means driving them around campus. Small tasks like this are how he's going to earn the respect of those around him, so when he does get the chance to take the field, he's more than ready to show the world his true talent. Despite being pumped up about his first NIL opportunity, he's quickly reminded of his energy-demanding coursework and reminded by his academic advisor that coming to a prestigious academic institution like Northwestern means he also came to play school. He continues to put the work in on and off the field, so when Northwestern loses in embarrassing fashion to Duke in week 2, he's hoping that his opportunity will come sooner than later. Northwestern's schedule starts fairly easy, so it's crucial that they win games early on if they want to have the opportunity to play in a bowl game later on this season. If they can't beat Duke, how are they going to match up against powerhouse schools like Ohio State and Michigan later on? He wants to be the man on campus, but school has to come first, and he's reminded of the tough decisions a college athlete has to make when he has to turn down a party opportunity with his teammates to instead attend his night class. Decisions like this will continue to earn him trust from his coach, but make it more difficult to build relationships with his teammates. At the end of the day, Deuce knows that it's his coach that's going to decide whether or not he sees the field, so it's his coach that he really has to prioritize. Is this the right path, however? Only time will tell. After he experiences no change to his GPA after his first round of exams, his advisor reminds him not to forget midterms after week 8 of the season. Deuce continues to grind in practice, absolutely crushing every drill that comes his way, and he continues to improve at the position in the background, using his experience points to increase his accuracy, power, and elusiveness. Things feel like they're starting to come together on and off the field, but then Deuce decides to skip curfew and go to a party one night, later on being busted by his coach, losing some of the trust that he's worked so hard to gain. And then after a crushing loss to Maryland, Deuce hears back about his midterms. He received all B's, leaving him with a sense of pride and accomplishment. He knows results like this will continue to set him apart in the eyes of his coach. The loss to Maryland, however, would only be a preview of what was to come, as Northwestern went on to lose several games in a row as their schedule became more challenging. They dropped games against Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, and Michigan. Deuce doesn't want to come down on his teammates, but he also knows that he's the man to step up and take this team to the next level they've been so desperately seeking. seeking. After finishing with a measly 3-8 record, being bowl ineligible, his coach finally calls on him. He had the opportunity to battle against Mike Wright for the starting quarterback spot in their last game of the season during rivalry week, taking on the U of I Fighting Illini. This was everything he was working for. The moment was finally his. And in his first of 3 drills, he had an abysmal performance, meaning he needed to beat Mike Wright in the next 2. But he spent a lot of time working on his pocket presence, so this drill felt like a piece of cake, as Deuce was just nailing every single target in front of him, seemingly missing no passes, earning himself a gold medal and an opportunity to take home the quarterback 1 spot. All he had to do was beat Mike's score in the option attack, which is something that he's been specializing in since the beginning of the year, so without issue, Deuce takes it home and finally gets the chance he's been waiting for. He starts out on his first drive running his coach's offense to perfection, converting on a huge 3rd down to move the sticks, but unfortunately the drive ended there as he couldn't convert on his next set of downs, and in famous Northwestern fashion, on came the punt team. On his next drive, he finds his number 1 wide receiver on a screen for a massive gain, but when he finds himself in another crucial 3rd down situation, Deuce can't come through, missing his wide receiver on his route, and the Wildcats settle for a field goal to take an early lead. After their defense comes up with a stop, Deuce decides to unleash and try to show everyone what he's capable of. But the young freshman unfortunately made the wrong greedy decision, and the ball ends up intercepted by the Fighting Illini. Deuce has to shake this off and try to do better on the next drive. After finding a quick throw to the outside, he shows what his legs can do on the read option and picks up a huge 1st down. He then picks up another 1st down and finds himself in the red zone for another scoring opportunity. He wants to put the trust in his teammates as they put the trust in him, so he finds his running back out of the backfield for a quick gain before throwing a quick hitch to the slot to set up their 1st and goal. From there, his teammates can do the rest, handing it off and finding the end zone for his team's first touchdown with Deuce at quarterback, giving the Wildcats a 2-possession lead. Unfortunately, this would be the last successful drive for the Wildcats, as Deuce would go on to throw for not 1, not 2, but 3 more interceptions. He now found himself in his first start with a terrible showing, but fighting tooth and nail to win this game. With just 50 seconds left and 3 timeouts, he has a chance to erase his poor performance from memory with a game-winning drive and prove to his coach that he belongs here as the team starter for next year. On 1st and 10, he throws a stripe over the middle for a huge gain and a 1st down. After taking a huge hit on his next 1st down and throwing an incompletion, he trusts his running back on the screen and then on the handoff to get the 1st down and move the chains. But time is ticking, and so the Wildcats use their 2nd timeout. Coach is clearly setting up for a field goal winner as he elects to run the ball on 1st down, picking up an 8-yard gain, calling a timeout, and then unfortunately due to the weather, the kicker missed the field goal, sending this game to overtime. This gives Deuce another chance to prove himself after the Illini make a field goal on their 1st drive in overtime. Deuce has to find that dog in him and knows that a touchdown wins it and a field goal keeps their hopes alive. But any sort of turnover in an interception or fumble or a turnover on downs will send them home packing. He tries to go for it all on 1st down and is intercepted. Not only did Deuce finish with 5 interceptions, but he let his team, his coach, and the Wildcat fans down. He now bears a heavy burden, wondering if he even deserves another shot and the starting spot heading into the next year. To make things even worse, he ended with 3 Ds and an F on his final exams. All that time he was putting into practice and spending time with his teammates left him embarrassed in the classroom. Will he decide to stick it out and fight again with the Wildcats next year, or enter the transfer portal and go for a fresh start somewhere else and try to prove himself? Deuce has a really tough decision to make. After examining all options, Deuce has determined that even if he didn't come back as the starter due to his poor performance in his one and only start, he didn't want to give up on the many reasons he came to Northwestern in the first place. He had grown to love his teammates and loved being close to where he grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Simply put, the job wasn't done. He decided to stay and fight again to be the starter. This time, he wasn't the new blood freshman on campus, but was well acclimated to the life of a student athlete and everything that comes with it. He had grown to love his teammates, and his teammates were starting to respect him a lot, especially with his desire to improve and work ethic on and off the field. So when the Wildcats lost their first game of the season against Tulane, he knew there was a chance his number would be called. Both Mike and Ryan were seniors last year, so he was fighting for the starting job with junior transfer Aiden Gray and was willing to put his head down and do the work until he got his shot. Deuce wasn't a complainer. He wasn't a whiner. He knew what he had to do to win over his coach again and put in the work so that when his chance did eventually come, he would be ready to show up this time. Thankfully, his opportunity for the starting job would come much earlier this year, as coach had seen enough during week 1. He gave Deuce the opportunity to fight for the job. When Deuce found out his first of 3 tests would be the scramble survive drill, He knew he'd give it his all, but likely would underperform and have to go on to win the next 2 challenges. Unfortunately, that is exactly what happened, as he failed to top Aiden in the first challenge, so he had no choice but to win the next 2. Next up was the pass skeleton, where he'd have to achieve a score of 2,000 to come out on top. Thankfully, he's been here before, and his experience is what carried him to an outstanding performance of almost 11,000 points. This is exactly what Coach wanted to see. Not just improvement, but the results of hard work in the offseason and determination to improve. Last but not least was pocket presence. Although not his #1 drill, Deuce knew he could find that dog in him enough to top Aiden and win over the spot. Target after target, he remained poised and calm, firing bullet after bullet. He didn't just beat the 4,000 points needed to win, he demolished it, bringing home a gold and asserting his dominance in the eyes of everyone watching. He finally did it, and this year not in week 12, but as long as he didn't screw the pooch, he should remain the starter for the entirety of his sophomore year. Now it was time for his first sophomore start, and thankfully he had an easy matchup against an FCS team. This should be a great way to settle in and get comfortable, and that's exactly what Deuce did, asserting his dominance, throwing touchdown after touchdown, leading the Wildcats consistently down the field and giving them repeated scoring opportunities. He was near flawless, absolutely curb stomping this FCS school and bringing Northwestern its first victory of the season by a score of 63-27. To top it off, he was voted player of the game after throwing for a mind-boggling 436 yards and 8 touchdowns. He knew if he got his chance, he wasn't going to let it go to waste, and he showed his teammates, his coach, and his fans that he was here to stay and bring glory to Northwestern that it had long been seeking. He's not just beloved for his performance on the field, but the way he thanks his teammates off and on the field instead of taking all the credit. Things were finally looking up. Continuing to practice and better his abilities should leave him in an even better spot come week 3, right? His coach was starting to trust him, but he still had a lot more work to do. Adding the mobile Deadeye ability to his arsenal was a great start, but Deuce feels burned after this insane performance to not be included on the early Heisman watch. He clearly still had a lot more to prove and would get that chance in week 4 against the UCLA Bruins. Deuce starts off struggling against this Bruins team, as an FBS school plays vastly different than the FCS school he just curb stomped. Not only is Deuce missing passes, but his receivers are struggling to create separation or catch the ball when it is delivered on the money. He finally throws an interception in the second quarter, and Deuce has to find it in himself to calm down and reevaluate the situation. When his receivers get open, his offensive line doesn't give him the time to set and throw. Everything seems to be going from bad to worse in week 4. After finding themselves down by a score of 17-0, Deuce has to take matters into his own hands, scrambling for several first downs until he finally finds his receiver on the slant for their first touchdown of the game. But after completing an awesome pass, Deuce makes another crucial mistake, throwing an interception that would pretty much put this game away. One week he's a hero, and the next week the entire fan base wants his head. He's now realizing the stress that comes along with being the starter. At least his GPA is doing well, but it seems if that's doing well, his play on the field is not, and vice versa. Unfortunately, it's not going to get any easier for the Wildcats, as next week they take on the USC Trojans on the road. Clearly, the social media hate is affecting Deuce, as he has his worst game ever, losing massively by a score of 38-14 and throwing several interceptions. He's starting to grow frustrated with his lack of protection from the O-line and inability for his receivers to create separation against good opponents. Deuce is doing everything he can to carry the team, but is now repeatedly coming up short. He'll have a chance to bounce back against Nebraska, but playing on the road is no joke. The crowd noise is excessive and making it nearly impossible for him to communicate at the line of scrimmage. Deuce isn't a huge fan of the play calling from Coach, so he often makes changes based on what he sees at the line of scrimmage, and not being able to do that is adding an extreme obstacle on top of what he's already facing. His first objective is to try and score to silence the crowd, which he knows can snowball into a much easier time on offense. But when their first several drives come up short and they find themselves down 7-0, it's now or never. This drive early in the second quarter can already be a turning point in this game, and Deuce knows it. He finds his tight end wide open on the drag route, getting them down to the 4-yard line. But this is the area they struggled to score in over the past 2 years, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. The Wildcats fall short and end up settling for 3 points. The crowd is still going crazy. Coming out of the half, the Wildcats are in fantastic field position. Deuce knows he has to make something happen here, or this game could already be over. He rolls to his right and finds his tight end with a nearly perfect pass to the corner for the go-ahead score. This was exactly the momentum shift they needed. Finally, the crowd is calmer, and Deuce can go back to work at the line of scrimmage. Just 2 drives later, he delivers a dime over the middle of the field to their slot receiver, and they score another touchdown, making it a 17-7 game, and never looking back. They bring home a massive win against a conference opponent, and it's only fitting that the tight end Camp McGee was player of the game. After spending some more time studying, the Wildcats are back home to take on USF. If they can beat a Big Ten opponent on the road, surely they can take home back-to-back victories against a much smaller school at home. They get off to a great start, taking an early 7-0 lead after Deuce throws a perfect touchdown pass to the corner of the end zone. But Deuce isn't without mistakes as he then throws a pick six tying the game at 7. When USF won't go away and Deuce finds his Wildcats in a tie game with just one more chance to score, he throws up a prayer.
Fires deep toward the end zone.
He can't believe it! A Hail Mary as time is expiring, and somehow the Wildcats come away with the win. This is a feeling he'll never forget, and could be the season-changing momentum they needed. But his prowess on the field is yielding some tougher results in the classroom, as Deuce has begun to neglect his studies. His midterms came back with all C's, which is not the example he wants to set for his teammates. This unfortunately carried into his next game against the Oregon Ducks, as Northwestern fell by a score of 24-7. Largely due to Deuce's lack of discipline and poor performance. As long as they bounce back next week, all will be forgotten. Overall, he's doing much better year over year, signing more NIL deals and remains the starter. These next few games will determine if Northwestern can make a bowl game or will yet again come up short. Thankfully, Purdue never really put up a fight as Deuce breezes through them at home, crushing them 41-20. He's comfortable playing at home where he can work the line of scrimmage, but road games are another story. Deuce knows if he wants to win a national championship one day, he's gonna have to learn to play away from Ryan Field. Already taking 20 sacks on the season, Deuce feels let down by his offensive line, but refuses to cast blame. He'll just have to adjust and use his legs more if he's to help his team muster up 2 more wins to qualify for a bowl game. Deuce leads his team down the field to take an early 7-0 lead against Minnesota, but after the O-line issues continue, Northwestern finds themselves quickly trailing 14-7 and struggling on offense. It's time for Deuce Dog to take over, and that's exactly what he does, breaking off a 30-yard first down run and setting the team up in scoring position. But can they finally overcome their red zone woes? The answer is yes, as Deuce finds his tight end on the quick out for 6 to tie up the game at 14. When Minnesota answers with 7 of their own, Deuce has one last chance before halftime. They're to make a bowl game at this point in the season, they need to stop dropping games and quickly. The tight end connection continues as Deuce finds Camp McGee on the drag for a massive gain, setting up another scoring opportunity. This connection with Camp is really starting to blossom. But when he tries to scramble on 3rd and goal, Deuce quickly realizes he just doesn't have the legs to outrun this Minnesota defense, and the Wildcats are forced to settle for 3. The O-line woes continue in the second half, and Minnesota never stopped scoring, pulling ahead 34-17, and Deuce didn't have the dog in him to lead this team to victory. The loss puts them to 4-5 on the season, and they're quickly running out of time to try to get to that 6-win minimum in order to be bowl eligible. Next week's matchup against Michigan will be no joke, but Deuce is putting all his energy into his training and leadership traits. When the Wildcats find themselves trailing by 2 scores in the second half, Deuce Dog delivers a dime, and his receiver does the rest. Their defense holds Michigan to 3, keeping it a 1-score game, and Deuce launches a perfect pass to set up the easy rushing touchdown. But a school like Michigan isn't just gonna lie down, so they score 3 of their own, regaining the lead by 2, and Deuce lets the pressure get to him, making the worst mistake possible, throwing a pick 6 on their next drive, and despite scoring another touchdown, this gaffe unfortunately was too much to overcome as Northwestern drops their 2nd straight game. Next week on the road at Penn State, Deuce succumbed to the crowd and social media pressures, putting up an abysmal performance, never even scoring a touchdown and losing 17-3. At this point, their season was likely over. He promised to snap the losing streak to a reporter, but that proved to be a mistake. But during rivalry week, he'll have his chance at redemption for his 5-interception start last year against the Fighting Illini. But this time, they're on the road, and it won't be so easy. I swear you can't write these kinds of opportunities, as yet again late in the 4th quarter with a tie game, Deuce finds himself with an opportunity for a game-winning drive and a shot at redemption. He starts by delivering a strike for a massive gain over the middle, and coach seems to be wanting to set up for the field goal yet again, electing to run the ball 3 times in a row and setting themselves up to put up 3 points. This time, there isn't weather to worry about, and this time the kicker makes the field goal, giving the Wildcats a 37-31 lead, all all the defense has to do is make a stop, and somehow, some way, with no timeouts, the Illini worked their way all the way down the field and scored a go-ahead touchdown to put this game away. Another crushing rivalry week loss, but this time Deuce can't help but feel he did everything in his power to give his team an opportunity to win, and his frustration has only grown since the start of this season. After telling a reporter they're all going to commit to working harder in the offseason to make a bowl game next year, Deuce really has to sit down and think if just making a bowl game is really what he's looking for. It'll be his junior season, and although they've made progress, it's small. He's here to win a national championship, not just barely make a bowl game with 6 wins. Does he think at this point entering the transfer portal and putting on a different jersey for a different school is the right path? Yet again, he finds himself with a huge decision to make. So many factors were pulling him back to Northwestern to finish what he started to build, but he also knows his time in college is finite, and he wants to give everything he can to achieve his original goal of winning a national championship. Northwestern just didn't have the recruiting prowess to surround Deuce with the top talent he needed, and his frustrations with his O-line and his receivers have reached a pinnacle. He decided it was time to take his talents down south to the University of Kentucky and attempt to topple the SEC. He's played in tough matchups before against teams like Michigan and Ohio State, but the Alabamas and LSUs of the SEC are a different breed. Different atmospheres, different play styles, but Deuce was ready for the challenge. If he was going to be the best, he was gonna have to beat the best. Even though he wasn't guaranteed a starting spot, Deuce starts out with an opportunity to earn it before the season begins. Same as Northwestern, he just needs to beat Bully's score in 2 of the 3 drills. Starting with Scramble Survive, well, we know Deuce's struggles in the past, and it was no different here. He was nervous to already be in a spot to claim the starting title at an entirely different school with different teammates, and it showed in his first drill. But moving on to Option Attack, this was where he felt right at home, and he was able to settle in perfectly and dominate Bully's attempt. Deuce made right decision after right decision, trusting his running back every time when he needed to, and his trust pays off as he dominated this drill, even earning a gold medal. Last up was Pass Skeleton, a drill that Duke has gotten better at over the last 2 years, but is by no means a guarantee. Thankfully, the bar was low at just 2,000 points to beat, and the dog came to play, toppling Bully's score and securing himself the spot as this season's starter. Coach immediately puts him to the test in week 1 as he doesn't want Deuce to turn the ball over or take more than 2 sacks. But Deuce is up for the challenge. He's a dog. However, he knows he'll have to be extremely careful not to let his coach down. While preparing for the game, a teammate asks him if he wants to go to a meet and greet, and Deuce gladly accepts. With a new team, he needs to do everything he can in order to earn their trust and build that sense of camaraderie, regardless of the energy cost. Thankfully, it helps build his brand on the side as well. This is the season the world will start to take notice of him, now that he's on the big stage in the SEC. The Wildcats kick off their season at home against Akron, and Deuce gets off to a hot start, leading his team down the field and putting them in position to score an easy touchdown with the give to his running back. But he's still getting to know his O-line, and it shows when he takes an 11-yard sack on their next drive. After battling back and leading his team down the field, his running back takes over yet again and powers his way into the end zone to go up 14-0. Deuce is quickly realizing the increase in talent around him. He doesn't have to put everything on his shoulders, and that allows him to settle in. And settle in he did. No win is ever guaranteed when playing at this level, but largely due to Deuce's 324-yard and 4-touchdown performance, the Wildcats absolutely stomp Akron in week 1 by a score of 66-0. This was the best case scenario to set the tone for the rest of the season and solidify his spot as a starter on this team. Unfortunately, however, Deuce was sacked multiple times, so he wasn't able to accomplish the goal that coach had set out for him. Only a minor setback, however, as Kentucky would continue this momentum into week 2. Getting out to an early 14-0 lead against the 6th best ranked team in the country, Texas Tech, the Wildcats never looked back, holding off the Red Raiders by a score of 31-28. Deuce's coach wanted him to be effective on 3rd down, and although he yet again didn't achieve that milestone, the win is really what mattered at the end of the day. But Deuce also wanted to set a great example with his academic performance, so he was putting in the time studying this year. But when his teammate asks him if he wants answers to a test coming up, Deuce decides to take the high road and not risk it. The last thing he wants to do is be kicked out of the university because he got caught cheating on an exam. After rolling through 2 breezy wins, a small non-Power 5 school like South Alabama should be a breeze, right? Wrong. The game was fought tooth and nail, Deuce doing everything he can. His time studying instead of preparing was leading him to make bad decisions, and Kentucky's defense wasn't able to hold off the Jaguars' offense, allowing 21 points throughout the game. But with 2 minutes left, all Deuce had to do was lead his team into field goal position, starting hot with a first down scramble. After converting a 3rd and 3 yet again with his legs, he's got plenty of time to work with and can now afford to slow things down. This, however, was his biggest mistake, as Deuce rears back and fires to his tight end, but the ball is intercepted. Down go the Wildcats, dropping their first game of the season at home to a team they should have demolished. This was a wake-up call. Despite the talent surrounding him, Deuce can't be careless with the football. He earns a sleight-of-hand ability to help him fool teams with his play action, which should give him more time in the pocket, and he hopes this will help him big time in future games. Luckily, the Wildcats are able to bounce back from this game at home against South Carolina, and from there, they're ready to go on a run. Snowballing one win into another is how a team will quickly find themselves in the college football playoff. Kentucky goes on to upset Alabama on the road, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and rolls through Mizzou. Deuce finally feels settled in, and his play on the field is showing it, scoring touchdown after touchdown, both with his arm and with his legs. He's become the true dual-threat quarterback that he's always wanted to be. Kentucky's been absolutely rolling through opponents so far this season, leading them to the number 2 rank in the country. But the latter half of the schedule is going to get a lot harder, and it starts with heading on the road to the Arkansas Razorbacks. The crowd is loud, and it's really disrupting Deuce, but he's able to use his legs to take a quick lead in the first quarter. After getting sacked near the red zone on a 3rd and 7, the Razorbacks go on a run, and Deuce finds his team fighting for their lives late in the fourth quarter. Score 3 to push to overtime, score 7 to win it, or don't score at all and head home with a fat L. Unfortunately, Deuce takes a huge sack on first down, and now he has to try to convert a 2nd and 18. After a tough incompletion, Deuce scrambles for 10 yards to make it a manageable 4th down. It all comes down to this with just 10 seconds left. Deuce scrambles to his right, but can't outrun the defender, and Kentucky loses a heartbreaker 24-21. With all the experience he's had this season, he's able to upgrade his most important attributes like quickness and increase his ability to outrun defenders that have continuously tracked him down. He hits practice hard this week, giving it all he's got to bounce back and earn the respect of his teammates heading back on the road to Mississippi State. Deuce quickly finds his Wildcats down 2 scores and has to quickly dig in and battle back. He puts matters into his own hands, scrambling for a touchdown, and after the Bulldogs are held to 3, Deuce works his way down the field yet again to set up an easy rushing touchdown to the running back. This game is within arm's reach. All he has to do is reach out and take it. But with a minute 20 left in the fourth quarter, Deuce makes the mistake he's been fearing this entire game and gives the ball away. And with it, the game. 2 losses in a row, Deuce knows they have to bounce back quickly and regain their composure in order to maintain a chance at this year's national title. But the road woes continue as Deuce struggles mightily against the LSU Tigers, and the team was never able to recover. Even with the better talent surrounding him, he's still massively struggling on the road this year, and it's been a wake-up call for him to step up and take some responsibility. He publicly demonstrates his accountability when asked by a reporter, which he knows will hurt his brand, but hopefully it'll help rally his teammates around him. All can be forgotten if they're able to beat rival Louisville on the road before heading into bowl selection. Deuce starts off strong on the first drive, scrambling for a first down and then trusting his running back to do the rest, giving the Wildcats an early 7-0 lead. He has to take the crowd out of this game early if he's to have a chance to lead his team to victory. It's a back and forth contest between these two rivals, as neither team is able to create much scoreboard separation over the other. Trailing by 7 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it's now or never for Deuce. He starts by converting a massive 2nd and 14 on the out route to get things rolling. Still battling the crowd, Deuce rolls to his right and signals his running back up the field while delivering a dime on the run. It's 1st and goal, but nothing is guaranteed this close to the end zone. He doesn't want to take any chances, so he finds a window and runs it in himself, tying up the game. And after Kentucky comes through with the stop, Deuce finds himself in another overtime thriller. But he's been here before during rivalry week, not once but twice, and will need to use that experience to maintain composure and give his team and the fans everything he's got. After taking a sack on 2nd down, Deuce lays it all on the field to keep their chances alive. He fights for the first down and finds his running back out of the backfield to make it a manageable 2nd and 1. All he has to do now is take it in himself, and that's exactly what he does. Louisville isn't quitting, however, as they score on their next 2 possessions, and with a forced 2-point conversion at the end of this drive, Deuce knows a touchdown could all but crush their rival spirit. On 3rd and 10, Deuce drives in the ball to the outside and gets his team down to the 1-yard line. He hurries back to the line and runs it in himself. One more play, 1 2-point conversion, and he can bring his team back home carrying the W. He snaps, steps up, sees a window, and runs for it. Breaking the plane, he can't believe it. Finally snapping the road losing streak. They might not be in contention for a title, but the Wildcats will be heading into bowl week feeling on top of the world. His performance landed him another NIL opportunity as the world is starting to take notice of what the dog can do. To top it off, he was named SEC Offensive Player of the Week. This success didn't come without unfortunate news as he absolutely bombed his final exams. Deuce was putting all his time into practice and building relationships with his teammates that he completely forgot that he's there to earn a degree as well. Ending the season 8-4, the Wildcats were invited to the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl to match up against none other than rival Louisville yet again. This time, however, the crowd wouldn't be an issue as it's played at a neutral site. Deuce had a great practice heading into the game, and he knows a bowl win here will spiral in the best way heading into next year. After Louisville scores on their first drive, Deuce lets his nerves get to him as he fumbles on the first play, but thankfully his running back is there to rescue him and recover it. This clearly fazed him, however, as just 2 plays later, Deuce gives the ball away anyway and throws a terrible interception. Unfortunately, Louisville quickly makes it a 2-possession game. They're clearly here to avenge their own loss from rivalry week, and Deuce knows it. He needs to put a few passes together to shake off the nerves, and that's exactly what he does, dinking and dunking his way down the field until finally he sees a hole in the defense and powers it through himself to put Kentucky on the board. With the first half waning, Deuce uses his legs yet again to convert a 3rd and 12 and is able to work his way into the end zone to give Kentucky the lead heading into halftime. Or so he thought, as Louisville turns it over and gives Kentucky back the ball on their own 1-yard line. Deuce fires to the slant route over the middle, and the Wildcats now find themselves up 21-10 at the half. Thankfully, they never looked back, as they go on to put up 41 points, crushing Louisville in back-to-back games, largely due to Deuce's 220 yards passing and outstanding rushing performance. This is exactly the ending they needed to the season to roll all their momentum into next year. But Deuce is thrown for a loop when he's told by coach he isn't guaranteed to be the starter. So yet again, he's faced with another decision. Will he continue what he's now started here in Kentucky, or roll this momentum to another school and try to take home that natty? He wasn't able to finish the job at Northwestern, but heading into his final year of college football, Deuce knew he had more to prove at Kentucky, and he had the talent surrounding him to get the job done. All he had to do was go out and execute. But not only was he not the starter, he wasn't even the backup. Apparently, coach was not happy with the results of last season, and Deuce was yet again starting from scratch. Before week 1, he breezed through his opportunity to become the backup. Although he wouldn't get the chance to start in their first game against North Carolina, when he saw his team lose 26-24, his number was called. Thankfully, he's been here before and had no issues topping Boley for the starting job. Although the college football playoff now starts with 12 teams, Deuce is already starting with 1 loss on the board, and he knew in order to make it, they'd have to go on a run like never before seen in Kentucky football history. And he was the guy to do it. And with a minute 15 left against Texas A&M in his first close contest of the season, Deuce had to lead his team down the field on the road at Kyle Field. He starts off with an easy screen pass, trusting his running back to move the team forward. They only need to get the ball in field goal range, so he fires a laser to the curl route for a first down and then an out route for another 8 yards. He's close, but still not there. On 3rd down, he finds his outside receiver on the C route and picks up a massive gain. Now they just need to clock out what they can to set up for the field goal. Only problem is that Kyle Field is the toughest place to play in college football for a reason, and they miss the field goal, sending this game to overtime. Here we go again, possibly this season already on the line, and Deuce needs to show why he belongs here. So on 3rd and 8, with everything on the line, he fires in a pass to the corner of the end zone and hits it. Kentucky takes a 28-21 lead, and when the Aggies fail to score, the Wildcats get to head home holding another W. Deuce knows this won't be the only close game they'll be in this season. After hitting practice hard, Deuce and the Wildcats head on the road to Mizzou and assert their dominance, then demolish Alabama at home, stomp Oklahoma on the road, and breeze past Louisville during rivalry week. They're not only the #1 team in the country at this point, but Deuce is winning notoriety from around the country, building his brand and his following. All they have to do now is get past Florida in the SEC championship, and they're headed to the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. On just Kentucky's first drive, Deuce hands it off, and their running back goes 41 yards for the touchdown. Plays like this from his teammate take so much pressure off his shoulders. But Florida is here for a reason, and they're not going to quit. So when they tie it up and Deuce has another chance to score in great field position before halftime, he has to take advantage. But after he rolls to his right and tries to make the smart decision by throwing it away, Deuce takes a terrible intentional grounding penalty, and the Wildcats are never able to recover, eventually settling for 3 and heading into halftime with the lead. But that lead didn't last long, as late in the third quarter, Kentucky finds themselves trailing by 4 points and needing to put a drive together to take back the lead. Deuce fires over the middle for a huge gain and then follows it up with another laser, getting them to the 3-yard line and setting up an easy rushing touchdown. On their next drive, they start with awful field position on their own 9-yard line, and his first objective is to move the sticks. But after a miscue on 2nd and 5, Deuce tries to fire over the middle and makes the worst mistake he's made all year. He gives Florida an easy 7 points and loses the lead for his team. It's now or never to bounce back, and the weight is all on his shoulders. So after the screen pass works beautifully on their next drive, Deuce sees a window and lets the ball rip. His receiver breaks a tackle and finds his way into the end zone, and the Wildcats retake the lead. All they have to do is run out the clock after their defense gets a stop, but on first down, their star running back Denton Sims gets injured. Deuce has been a backup before, and look at him now. So he puts his trust into their backup running back Jamarian Wilcox on the screen pass to get the first down and nearly ice this game, and he comes through. From here, Deuce can do the rest as he fires over the middle to the deep crosser, and then Wilcox easily rushes it in for 6 to clinch the game and take home an SEC championship. Deuce wasn't even considered for the Heisman in his final season and feels burned by it, but he's going to focus that energy into proving to the world that he's the best quarterback in the country. Now it's on to the All-State Sugar Bowl to try and take down powerhouse Georgia. Georgia proved they belong here, as this was a back-and-forth battle throughout the entire game. Deuce finds himself with a chance at redemption from his own 38-yard line, 1:32 left on the clock and trailing by 4. It's win or go home. He starts with a quick in route over the middle to get things rolling and then takes it himself to pick up the first down. After hurrying to the line, he delivers another laser to the outside, setting them up at the 29-yard line. Just 29 yards to go, and they move on to the semifinal. He finds his outside receiver on the slant route, who breaks a tackle and picks up a big gain to put the Wildcats in firing range. After an incompletion on first down, Deuce reads the defense and adjusts the play at the line of scrimmage. He eyes Wilcox on the whip route, who creates some separation, and Deuce hits him. He gets in! The Wildcats score and regain the lead. After the Bulldogs fail to score on their next drive, the game is over and Kentucky moves on. Just one more game to sniff the college football championship. They'll be taking on the USC Trojans, a team that demolished Deuce just a few years ago. He finally has his shot at redemption, and he takes full advantage. Kentucky puts up touchdown after touchdown, and Deuce looked like the quarterback sent from God himself. Largely due to his 308 yards and 4 passing touchdowns, Kentucky stomps the Trojans 42-20, and 4 long years later, Deuce is finally heading to the national championship with a chance to raise that trophy. All eyes in Kentucky, all eyes in the country, and all eyes from the NFL will be on him this game as they attempt to take down the University of Clemson and be the last college football team standing. Deuce gets the ball rolling early with a check down to the outside for a first down, and then sadly falls short on 3rd and 6, resulting in a field goal. But he finds his running back on the whip route again, who's able to create space and get some yards after the catch. Then he finds Rodriguez over the middle for another chunk gain, and when his scramble attempt on 3rd down comes up short, the Wildcats settle for yet another field goal. Clemson takes the lead with a touchdown on their next drive, so it's crucial that with 20 seconds left in the half, Deuce convert his 3rd down, and he does with a laser over the middle to the tight end. But it's all for naught, as on the next play, Deuce's turnover demons rear their heads, and they'll head into halftime trailing by 4. To add insult to injury, Clemson scores another touchdown to start the second half, and Kentucky find themselves down by 11. It's now or never. If Deuce doesn't right this ship, this game and national championship opportunity that he's fought tooth and nail for over the past 4 years will slip through the cracks. Deuce delivers 2 laser beams in a row before converting a 2nd and 1 on a massive gain with his legs, setting the Wildcats up in scoring range. He sees a window opening over the middle and puts everything he has into this throw and finds his favorite guy, Wilcox, for an ever so important touchdown to keep them in this game. Going for 2 to make it a 3-point deficit proves to be the right decision, as Deuce finds his man in the back of the end zone, largely due to the great protection from his O-line. After a stop on defense, Deuce finds his tight end on the post over the middle to enter Clemson territory, but he suddenly finds himself in a tough 3rd and 10 situation and needs to convert. Deuce steps up in the pocket, but he sees a defender close enough to stop him if he tries to run for it, so he fires to the corner down the field and connects. A huge play for the Wildcats. And on 3rd and goal, Deuce topples his red zone fears and completes a pass to the outside, giving Kentucky a 4-point lead. Now with just 3 minutes left in the 4th quarter, Deuce just needs to chew this clock, so that's exactly what he does, completing an outside pass to Wilcox to pick up a first down, then a beam to his tight end for not just a huge chunk gain, but a massive touchdown. After Clemson scores, keeping it a 3-point game, only 1:25 remain, and Deuce hands it off to Forsett for another first down. Now, after converting on a 3rd and 4, this game is all but over. Victory formation in the national championship on the world stage. Deuce takes a kneel, and he's finally done it. 4 long years gone by in the blink of an eye. Deuce, the underdog, is now a national champion alongside his Kentucky Wildcat family. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out the video on screen for more.